I'm just unsure on this episode. When I first seen it, I was like, yes, I can't wait for this one. But then the more I find out about it, I'm just like, damn, I don't know. Yesterday we got to meet Maestro on a Doctor Who clip that was released to their YouTube channel.
Who are you? My notation is Maestro.
I had already seen this clip prior because Disney had released it first, and it was leaked on someone's YouTube channel. I couldn't resist but watching it. I needed to see. But I want to discuss a little bit about this because I'm not 100% sure I'm on board with this. Every single Doctor Who season has that episode, and I don't want this episode, The Devil's Cord, to be Love and Monsters or Fear Her. Like, I really don't want this episode to be a bad episode because Jinx Monsoon is such an iconic drag queen, and I just love her work, and I don't want this to be a bad episode. But I have a fear that it might be a bad episode. I fear that it might be that episode of the season. With there only being 8 episodes for this season, it's going to be a tighter squeeze to have that episode. Like, regardless whether they've cut out the filler episodes and it's just kind of story driven the full way through the season, there's still going to be that episode that is completely everyone's least favourite episode of that season. And I don't want the second episode of the new season to be that episode. Doctor Who needs to get off to a fantastic start for this new season. And being episode 2, if this is the bad episode, it's not going to send good signals to people. So let's talk about the first part of the clip.
Who are you? My notation is Maestro. But what are you?
So Maestro introduces himself by using my notation is. Now with this wording, I think this could cause a little bit of a stir with the uneducated Doctor Who is all about the message gang. And I am concerned, but for those of you who are interested in learning what a notation actually is, it's a musical notation. So in any system used to visually represent auditorily perceived music, played with instruments or sung by the human voice through the use of symbols, including notation for durations of absence of sound, such as resets. So it is genuinely just to do with music. And the fact that Maestro uses this to introduce himself is really quite clever on RTD's part, as it really helps us realise how much of a musical goddess this character is. They even use musical terms to introduce themselves. Like, that is quite clever. It really, really is. But then Maestro goes on to follow up that line with the next line, reiterating the point that they are music. So she goes ahead and she goes, I am music. So this villain does not see themselves as a physical being, but more of a waveform, I guess. Nah, a joke, but it's made very clear that this is a supernatural being from the get-go. And then at the scene where Maestro is saying, you're the greatest composer who ever lived.
And you, Mr. Timothy Drake, you're a genius. That'd be ridiculous. You're the greatest composer who ever lived.
It really looks like Jinx is about to say, of all time. I'm going to play this for you so you can see.
Composer who ever lived.
Possibly a blooper that was averted by Jinx. RuPaul would be so proud, my darling. But then we move on to the dramatic side shown through with Maestro beginning to raise their voice and become more passionate about what they're saying to Timothy.
Clever enough to find the lost chord, but it's so sad, Timothy. You never had the luck. You never got that break.
I did not. You're right. Nobody ever understood me.
All those melodies, stifled and
I've watched this scene 3 times or more now, and I do love Jinx Monsoon, but I'm a little bit worried that there may be a lot of the typical drag queen overacting in this episode. And I fully get that from this clip that Maestro is clearly supposed to be a way out there character, but is this going to be a factor that distracts from how good the episode actually is? Because everyone's doing their normal acting, and then we're going to have Maestro, who is completely overacting, theatrical as hell, and it just doesn't blend in with everything else that's happening in the episode. It worries me, I'm not going to lie, it does, it worries me. But again, on the other side, I'm like, RTD's a genius and he will make this work. But again, on the other side, there's always that episode of a season. So, yeah. The costuming of this villain or a supernatural goddess, I don't care which one it is, the costuming is phenomenal. I cannot take anything away from the costuming department on that one. They've done an amazing job on this, and the full outfit fully envelops the character completely. I'm wondering if the ginger wig is a nod to Jinx Monsoon themselves, as RTD likely wrote the character with them in mind, so the design of the character would likely match that of Jinx's drag. That would be quite nice, actually. I just want to start off by saying Jinx's makeup looks fabulous, but... and there's always a but. The only thing that is really, really bothering me is that damn harsh contour shadow around the jawline. I want to guess Jinx has done her own makeup for this, but one of the things when it comes to drag makeup is that it's usually done for stage performances, and it doesn't always translate well and look good on camera, especially if the lighting isn't correct. I don't know, as whoever done the makeup's just, they've not took into consideration that bottom part of the jaw is going to be darker in that specific scene than it is going to be, say, in an outside scene, for instance. But from the jaw up, she looks fantastic. It's just the harsh line around the jaw, but I think it would probably be fine in person if you were actually there, so it's going to be a hard one to judge. As I say, drag makeup is usually done for performing on stage. The last thing that I want to talk about regarding the Devil's Cord is what Russell has advised us before we go into the episode. And I can't figure out if it's one of his clever moves or if it is just set fans down, this is the rubbish episode of the season spiral, and this is what's maybe got me thinking this way. So Russell has said this when he was asked about the episode. I knew that the Beatles music is so expensive, even on a Disney budget. We couldn't afford that. And so I thought, imagine you're visiting the Beatles and you couldn't have the Beatles music. What would you do? And that's the story. It kind of created itself. I mean, this is a really interesting concept if you're a fan of the Beatles, which I and many others very much are not. So this episode is not going to hit in the way that I think Russell intended for the fans who have never even listened to the Beatles. Unless he has written a way around that in which, looking at the reviews for the episode, seem to be mostly positive. But again, how does this episode sit with the Whovians who don't know or have never even listened to the Beatles? And I know that's a bit of a silly thing to say because the Beatles are so big, everybody knows who they are, but that's not the case at all. Like, honestly, there's people out there that probably don't know who the Beatles are. And going in and watching this episode about this music group, I suppose the music group could always just be seen as a music group in a recording studio with a music villain. Like, it could work, I suppose. We'll just have to wait and find out. And I'll be sure to let you know in the review for that episode. But taken from one review, it does seem like the Beatles are just a side story, with Jinx, the Doctor, and Ruby being the main story arc. And the Beatles and Abbey Road Studios is just kind of the place everything happens in. So, yeah, if they're more of a side story, it could really work well. The only thing I'm worried about is the overacting. But then I love drag queens acting, so I could really, I'm so stuck because everything that I've seen for Doctor Who so far, I've absolutely loved. There has not been anything in the trailers or what's been released that I've questioned. This is the first thing that I've questioned, and I don't know if it's a case of, is it going to work? Is it just me being one of those fans that's like, this is too different, it's not Doctor Who? Like, I'm very, very accepting to change in Doctor Who. I mean, I suffered through Jodie's era and I'm still here. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just unsure on this episode. When I first seen it, I was like, yes, I can't wait for this one. But then the more I find out about it, I'm just like, damn, I don't know. Are you excited for the Devil's Cord? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe and let's dive back into the Whoniverse together by clicking this video right here. It's right there. Click it. You know you want to.